Things are about to shift in Montreal as on the heels of the Habs' first preseason game of the 25-26 season. Patrick Laine and Ivan Demidov are putting in some work as they will both be active for this game, but it's not just them. We also got a tease of a line for next game that has raised some other interesting questions about the lines heading into the regular season. We got to dive into what is going on with the Habs heading into their matchup against Pittsburgh, some teasers for the Philly matchup, but also some updates from Elliot Friedman and The Athletic on the Sidney Crosby to Montreal situation. And to cap it all off, we got some other really, really interesting things to get into. You won't want to miss anything coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And Jesse, I'm glad we're back for another stream. We got a new setup. I've moved in a new place, back from Montreal. Everything's going well. I'm so happy we're back on these Monday live streams at a brand new time. How you feeling? It's been too long.
I'm feeling so good right now here, back for the lives, of course. You know, the new home, the new season's beginning. We're getting hyped, Josh. Like, we were just chatting yesterday, right? It's like, seems like, you know, just yesterday we're in the dog days of summer, and before you know it, the season just creeps up, and it's right here, this moment that we've been waiting for. And of course, we've been hyped for Habs hockey anyway, but especially just considering all the amazing new additions of really Demidov, his first preseason game here tonight. We're going to see Dobson in the Montreal colors officially here tonight. There's just so much to be excited about, Josh. Like, I know we don't want to just spill the beans all right away, Josh, right. But it's like one thing we have to say before the season begins, one hot take we have to lay down here in Habs Digest. Noah Dobson is going to be way better than we think that he is going in the season. Like, if there's one thing you're going to expect to hear on Habs Digest and watching Habs game is Noah Dobson's going to be even better than you expected him to be. It's going to start tonight, and I'm really just can't wait to see it all unfold.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I'm really excited to see the Matheson-Dobson pairing, whether they prove us wrong or unfortunately prove some people right. Regardless, we're going to get a very good insight into this team. And I think two guys that are fluid skaters, like, I think it'll mesh better than maybe we anticipate. But hey, all yet to be seen. We're maybe getting ahead of ourselves, but I don't think so. The game starts very soon. Can't believe it's Habs hockey time. But hey, before we get into all that, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. We got Jean-Francois, Brian, Sully, Norm, so many people have jumped in here again. Lighting looking bright, Josh. Yes, it is. You know, it got some nice lighting. I can change the colors as well, but you know, whatever. Not much I can do about the whiteness sometimes. But look, regardless, we're gonna hop into some of this stuff. And oh, we got Joseph, one of our moderators in chat. Let's Go Hockey's back. Smash that like if you're excited. You know what, Joseph? Why not hit that like button? We got 130 people in here already, and you know what the like button does. It makes you happy because you click a button, you get a little thumbs up, and it also helps push us out so all kinds of Habs fans from across the world will find us, share this chat with you. Before we get into the game tonight, Jesse, there's some other stuff we got to get into as well, because the game tonight is one thing and people might be watching after. We want to talk about some of the interesting power play units. And look, we talked about this yesterday in the video, and for those of you that saw it yesterday in the video, hey, that's great too, and maybe you can give some insight into this as well, and that's where we'd really love to hear from you. But it sure seems like the unit of Slav, Caufield, Suzuki Hudson, and Zachary Bolduc is really looking like it could be a power play unit. If not for, it's definitely at least for the preseason, because that's kind of the unit that's going out there. But there's some speculation it could be for the regular season, because we saw him again today from Stu Cowan. They're working together. I mean, Jesse, I know we discussed this a bit yesterday, but like, do you think there is any world that this is actually the power play unit that we run out on night one of the regular season, or do you fully anticipate that we'll get one of Laine or Ivan Demidov to get out there?
I think that there's a really good chance that this is the lineup that they'll ice for opening night. I think that Martin St. Louis wants to get to it really quickly. And I was a little bit surprised right at the beginning, Josh. Like, I still expected to see kind of maybe Laine, Suzuki. I was almost expecting like Demidov. Like, I thought they're going to put maybe their 5 like strongest PP guys. But you know what? I get the logic. I like how they're making the line combinations, like especially for the forwards. Maybe Diet have a couple questions. That remains to see how that'll really play out. But I think like largely though, like there's some really good decisions being made. Again, interesting to know both Slafkovsky and Bolduc being there. I like the sandpaper they could provide. I'm just wondering, Josh, because Bolduc works really good as kind of that bumper spot.
Yeah.
Now, we know Slav is a little bit more in front of the net. I know Bolduc's really effective there. I also wanted, if Demidov isn't on PP1, what I like about that is that opens up the possibility for Slafkovsky to be a shooting threat on that right-hand side. It's on the PP. I'd like to see him shooting a little bit more. You got Caufield on one side. We can't forget, like, Slafkovsky, he can let it rip too. It's just, we haven't got enough opportunity to see it. And I think if we see it more, we'd be asking for a lot more of it. because this guy can absolutely do it. So I think that, Bolduc and Slav and maybe having a little bit of interchangeability within their roles on the PP, I think could be an interesting dynamic in this as well. And obviously, like a big takeaway in this, like if Martin St. Louis doing this, it's because he's liking what he's seeing right now from Demidov and Laine. And we're going to get in this a little bit later, but like some people are making quite a bit of it. Like I wasn't sure at first, Josh. Like at first I thought the chemistry was non-existent. Then as the off-season kept going, it's like, okay, maybe there's something there. It kept getting better. And now I'm seeing the ice and they're looking really good. Where before I was maybe not such a believer. And does that mean like Laine's going to be on the third line? And what does that mean for the power play and different things? It's like they're looking really good together, which is a dream situation if you're Kent Hughes and Marty St. Louis. Like you can't draw it up better. The fact that they put in that work in the offseason, they're getting along and they're showing chemistry on the ice. So the reason they're keeping them together and including Dach in that, which I think is, a huge boost of confidence considering everything he's went into, giving him a chance to be successful, which I think is so important for Kirby really getting to that promised land that he wants to go to as well. I'm liking from what I'm seeing with both units. We got Hudson on one, got Dobson on the other. Like we knew it was going to be good. We know we have lots of talent. Now it's just about like, do we want two balanced unit or do we really want to go really top heavy with one and then still probably have a good second unit? I'd probably lean into that second option going really, really top heavy, but I'm liking what Martin St. Louis is doing here because he's telling us by this. He's saying, I like the chemistry. I think that they can do stuff together. And for me, that's a positive sign. If that is the case, you need to run with it because of the balanced attack that can really bring.
Yeah, for sure. And, I find it interesting too that it's like, I agree, like the really loaded PP1 versus like a decent PP2 tends to be a good strategy. But then you also wonder, like, there are other aspects, like having Laine and Caufield in the same power play. As we saw, hey, Laine succeeded. Having two shooting threats was good, but at times it kind of hindered one or both of them, having them both out there at the same time. So there maybe is a balance between chemistry versus star power that we're still trying to explore, which I love, right? The fact that we can even do this. So before I get into this a little bit more, and we got a poll coming, we got to highlight some of the channel members in the chat as Daniel Charbonneau, welcome to the Snipe Selly tier. Daniel says, a member at last. Thank you so much, Daniel. You know what? You sent that dancing emoji. Why don't you send the other emojis? All our channel members, we got the Patrick Laine, we got the Demigod, we got so many different things here. Why is it not loading? We got Laine, we got Lane Train, we got Chef Hughes. I don't know if those are coming through in the chat. They should. I don't know. Yeah, it's not working there in the chat, but hey, there we go. Now it popped up. There we are. Yeah, we got them all. Thank you so much. But not just that, Jesse, we have Doug coming in, member for 15 months at the Rocket Richard tier. Doug, leave some love for both Doug Saylor and Daniel Charbonneau for becoming, well, Doug re-upping his membership, Daniel being a new one. 15 months is crazy. He said, so excited for this season. The rebuild is pretty much done. We got other members as well, like Alex saying, don't mind spreading the talent out for the power play. Jordan's here. Is Fleury playing tonight? Oh, I'm not sure. That could be interesting. Marty, I don't think he is, though. Marty will stack knee. We know this, but this is unreal. So thank you so much to Doug, Daniel, Jesse. What a great way to start this stream on our first game night of the season.
It is, and you guys, our fans, obviously always know how to start it off in style. Doug, obviously, we appreciate you so much. Daniel, thank you so much at last, and also, to other fans of the channel, if you kind of been hanging around for a while and maybe you haven't hit that subscribe button, kindly invite you to do so if you want to see us succeed. And obviously, it's a great way to support us so that we're able to kind of pour more into the channel. To obviously, we just want to be bringing more and more value to you guys really all the time. So thank you guys for all the support. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's so awesome. Like that we have the fans like this. We got everyone just sharing that hype for the Montreal Canadiens. So that everything's about to shift for the Habs right now. Again, the Crosby talk, how we're going to see these lines perform. So excited. We got Tyson saying can't wait for the game tonight. Neither can we. It's going to be unreal. Daniel saying never miss a video. It was just a matter of time. Look at that, Daniel. So loyal. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got to say as well, thank you to all the people I met in Montreal. Didn't get a chance to do that in the live. Met 5 really wonderful people who recognized me in Montreal. So thank you for that. And one even in the airport. And even recently in St. John's, I got a couple people who came up to me. So it's so cool to meet all these people. You know who you are. Thank you so much. Joseph with the Chef Hughes. Gary saying, let's show Crosby what he could be part of this year. And hey, you know what? Before we get to Crosby, I do want to put up a poll in chat because I think it's interesting. And just to get back to the power play for a second, I'm just going to put in the poll. Do you think Bolduc will start the year on PP1? Because it's a pretty simple question. Like, will he start there or will it be something else? Because, Caufield spent some time at the bumper spot when Laine was there. They were kind of exploring different things. But we know objectively, Caufield and Laine both occupy that same space and they are both at their best when they're at that place. Caufield has that chemistry with Suzuki. Line is developing that chemistry with Demidov. And I also wonder, Jesse, do you ever think, like, if these are the power play units that we do enter the season with, which again, I don't necessarily think is likely, but I think it's possible. Do you think there's any world that, like, maybe matchup dependent? I don't know what matchup would cause it, like, you not to put, like, Hudson or Caufield out. But I do wonder if there could be a situation where you go, like, listen, Ivan Demidov, Patrick Laine, they both have 3 points tonight, or 2 points. Let's send that unit out first, you know? Like, there could be some interesting things there. Again, that's sort of that advantage of having 2 really good units that, you know, if one is playing hot, you could almost run them out instead. And I think that's a really interesting proposition.
Yeah, I really like that take. And again, I think we're just going to see that, even extending that to our lines, where ideally that's the ideal world where we just find so much balance between that first and second line, just giving so much, you know, kind of a needed respite to Nick Suzuki here going forward. And I think that that's a smart play, Josh, because Laine, as we know, is a guy who's like really streaky. And when he's hot, you kind of want to feed him and you want him out there on the power play. I just think like how that opens up things like what Nick Suzuki was able to do by double shifting on the power play, you know, doing, you know, some penalty kill as well. Just like it was amazing the points that he put up. But this is what's going to allow him to continue that Iron Man streak that he has right now, continue to keep playing, staying healthy, have an effect on the team over the long term. Because you'd have to feel like Nick Suzuki, it's hard to keep doing that if he's not getting that support from other units, other lines. At some point, it's going to get injured, and we're going to really miss having Nick Suzuki out of the lineup. Obviously, with the emergence of Ivan Demidov, a phenomenal pick, the amazing acquisition of Patrick Laine, I think there was a little bit of TLC. You know, you needed to water that plant, give it a little bit of sunshine. It's not an automatic project, but I think we're going to be happy, like, over time, you know, how this really turns out here. Because, again, like, if we're able to get that proper 2C, I think it's, again, we might be underestimating just, like, how good this second line can really be. Like, Demidov just completely electric. He's just taking over the ice. If you just give him a little bit of support, I think the effect that he can have and, you know, really what he can create on the ice can be very comparable to that first line in many ways. And that'll maybe even should we bring in Demidov onto that top line as well? He's going to be so good that we need to get in front of that conversation to say, we know what's going to happen, but it's really, again, coming back to this conversation. It's about that overall lineup chemistry, which I think is so important. Like, Slav has an important role on this team to play as well, and I don't think we want to negate that. Ideally, you're having a 1A, 1B situation with those 2 top lines.
Yeah, I think so too, and which is crazy that we've gone from like, first line that's so far and away better than everything else on the team to now it's like, we kind of have like, you know, the idea of like 1A, 1B power plays. And even again, depending on the situation, we have that potential for it to happen with potential game-breaking talents in Laine and Demidov depending on the night. So like, it's so interesting to go from where we were a couple of years ago to where we were last year to where we are in the playoffs to where we are today. And it's just been so quick, this meteoric rise. It's been unbelievable. We're going to end the poll there. And thank you for stopping by, Marcus. He has to go. Too bad was second. Yeah, unfortunately, he came in second there to Daniel Charbonneau, who got the membership. But yeah, thank you so much. We're going to end the poll there. And the poll, 64% of people, Jesse, seem to think that Bolduc won't be on the first power play, but it adds to 100%. Did they do a patch? Oh boy. Okay. This is twice now in the last like month or so. This is something different. I like that. Very much like that. Okay. Thank you, Google. But still 37% of people said that he will be on the first power play, with some people saying, hey, look, like at the end of the day, they're probably not doing it for no reason. But again, like if you just look at the lineups, one is the lineup playing tonight, one is the lineup playing tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see, because you do want them to have chemistry in the preseason. But we do have another super chat coming in from Michael. Michael, thank you so much for the super chat. $6.99, really appreciate it. Love you boys. Thank you. Love you too, Michael. Which player do you think is going to impress you the most tonight? And that's an interesting question. Maybe a little bit of a teaser of what we're getting to next. Jesse, though, you know, my answer is easy, and it's Ivan Demidov, because I feel like every time he steps on the ice, he is the most impressive player. That prospect showdown was ridiculous. Honorable mention to me, Noah Dobson, like you brought up earlier, and because I think, like you said, you put it so perfectly, I think I'm just going to steal exactly what you said. He's going to be better than a lot of people think he's going to be. So I'm going to have our boy Ivan up here, and I think we're going to have Dobson here, but I'd love to be surprised by other guys. Who do you got?
I'm going to be interested to see what Engstrom can do tonight.
Ooh,
I think he was kind of like a little bit under the radar, but for tonight, like I'm saying, like I want to see. I'm going to say what I want to see, and that's Patrick Laine.
Yeah.
Where like offensively, he's playing really good in the offensive zone, but being engaged like in all 3 zones, you know, maybe clogging up that neutral zone with his big body, getting on pucks, getting in front, of players. It's something that I really want to see, like Patrick Laine, like, because we've seen the good signs like of him scoring, but we've seen in camp that, okay, he's bringing it really in all three zones. And the question is tonight, will he be able to do that? Did he do that? Leave that in the comment section. How did Patrick Laine fare? Because I feel like that's going to be that's really like the litmus test. It's like, we have a certain baseline we're going to hit with just the guys doing what we need to do. The wild cards and all this are really Laine. I think maybe a little bit of Slav that you can put in there. You know, Reinbacher, does he come in his own? Does he affect this lineup? How good is Kapanen? Like, those are all what really takes us all to the next level, I think, so far for this team this year. So, yeah, that's somebody that I'm really looking forward to see. I think Demidov is great to say. He's just going to do, like, phenomenal stuff there. But, yeah, can Laine bring it all the way around? Who do I think is going to be most impressive? Yeah, I think like Dobson is just really going to impress us by how he's moving out on the ice out there, you know, for sure. So yeah, I think that, and I obviously want to see some things from our young guys though as well. Like, you know, Beck's going to have a huge chance tonight, Kapanen, but I'm going with Patrick Laine to bring that, you know, 200-foot effort tonight. That's what I want to see.
I love that. I actually really like that take because, you know, I think this is going to be, I wonder if he's going to be timid because he might have some like PTSD from preseason, right? Like it's tough, right? Going into a preseason game like what happened last year. But I think that potential is absolutely there for Laine, right? To just go out there and just be like, to look fast, to look smooth, and to play a 200-foot game. And I think that would be really cool. So, fantastic question, Michael. We saw some people saying demigod. We got a lot of people saying a lot of different stuff. I know Dach is not playing it as captain, like we just teased there. What did I miss? Is Crosby one of us yet? Not yet, but we do have some updates that we're actually about to get into from Elliot Friedman, who was on La Poche Bleue, but we'll get into that in a moment. Alex, I think he does. I really like the acquisition. I think you're talking about Bolduc. I'm not totally sure, but regardless, he's sneaky good, can shoot in tight areas, perfect for the power play. Probably Bolduc. That sounds like Bolduc. Also saying I really want to see a strong game from Dobson. And we totally agree, Alex. Like, I think that's a really big thing tonight. Like, Dobson-Matheson, that pairing, how it goes is going to, again, not going to tell us everything we need to know, but it's going to give us a sneak peek, and maybe it'll be better or worse than we thought. So, excited about that. But let's get into, let's just get into Sidney Crosby, because at this point, we've been talking about him for so long, but there was some tweets I saw today, and it was from that Push Bleu a few days ago. Elliot Friedman had some stuff to say. Plus, we have an Athletic article where every team's beat reporter talked about what are the odds of getting Crosby, and we'll get into what Arp and Basu had to say. But straight up, Elliot Friedman, I know the Montreal speculation has exploded. I don't think it's impossible. If he agreed to be traded, I don't think it's impossible he gets traded, is what he's saying. If he agreed to be traded, I think Montreal would be on a very short list of teams he'd be willing to consider. He also said, on Crosby potentially moving, I think he's thought about it. I think he's considered it. I think it's something that was on his mind a little bit this summer, but it's going to happen on his terms. And, we'll get into the other stuff here in a second. Do I have I got the stats there. We'll get into what Arpin had to say, but again, Jesse, with the revelation of Evgeny Malkin and the talks of him potentially getting traded as well, like every source that we're seeing, I feel recently, like I've seen some people echo the sentiment of like, am I getting pranked here? Because like everything is just like bringing him to Montreal. Maybe it's the power of the media, but it's like not just like Habs beat reporters, but it's like Elliot Friedman and like even Crosby himself kind of not shutting it down. Crosby's agent not shutting it down. I don't know. Again, I just feel like the smoke is out of control. It's like a Crosby, instead of just smoke, it's like a Crosby wildfire at this point. But hey, I mean, I'll be honest, I can't get enough of it.
Well, especially when Elliot Friedman's kind of opening the door there. I'm saying how like Crosby's thinking about it. Yeah. And I'm wondering like, what's the line in the sand, Josh, between like Crosby thinking about it and Sidney Crosby having conversations with Hughes? Like, I don't even feel like that's so far of them kind of just kicking tires, not on specifics, but just kind of feeling each other out. Do I think there's maybe a remote possibility of even that conversation happening? I think that's kind of fair. Like when Elliot Friedman's bringing this out, I think he's trying to maybe like downplay it more than anything else. When he was saying he's thinking about it here in this way, I think it's obviously very interesting. And there's different schools of thought on this, Josh. I'll kind of give like my own take on it. Like, there's one school of thought where it's like Crosby would prefer to take care of this before the season begins. And then there's the other reason, another camp saying that Crosby and even like Malkin, they want to see how the season goes and then make a decision based off that. It seems there's been like good sources on each. I just think the far less messy situation is Crosby leaving like before the season really begins, and that's a little bit less of the drama situation. Like, is there really like, are we like doubting like if the Penguins are going to do well this year and surprise us, like making the playoffs? Like, why? I don't feel like Crosby needs to play the season and see how the team does. Like, he knows even with him doing really good, they're probably going to be near the bottom of the basement right there, which is why I think where it's important. While I don't feel like it's 100%, like it's kind of died down a little bit, I think that there's a greater likelihood of this happening still before the season than afterwards. Again, Montreal has a need. They don't want to wait till they fill that spot. At the same time, I just feel like it's a little bit of a cleaner break in terms of the optics there. You would probably feel you probably want to do it earlier on the season, the off season. But again, like it's interesting to note that like Crosby himself might not have like made his mind up really on all this, just because like it's such a hard decision. Like he's torn where like we put ourselves in issue. Like he loves Pittsburgh, but there's also another part of it where like he wants to play, he wants to compete for that Stanley Cup so bad. And it's like, you've been training, you've been working so hard. Why? Like so that you can play for the moments when it really matters. Like you're not taking care of yourself here at 38 and beyond just to let a lot of that good work kind of fall the wayside and not be able to put in a practice where, obviously you're obviously benefiting not just your team, but the entire NHL, just the excitement of getting to see Sidney Crosby and what he brings to the Stanley Cup playoffs here. So I think that that's all really important here to consider. But if he is coming to Montreal, we need to know it's not just from the fans and for getting a chance to play in front of his hometown team. It's because he believes that there's a chance to win here. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, if Crosby came, I don't think he would be so far off of, he shouldn't underestimate his effect on what we have already than him putting himself in this conversation. You put Crosby with Demidov and Laine, Suzuki, Caufield, Slaf, like that is a very good top six. On top of the bottom six that we have, there's a lot of depth. I think we're one of the deepest teams in the NHL. And I think we are shaping up to have one of the best decors in the NHL right now. So, like, absolutely Crosby coming here, it's because he believes he can win. I believe if he's going anywhere, I think it's Montreal. Like, we got a lot more to be able to offer Pittsburgh. And I think that in terms of being able to compete, with Crosby, that's the caveat. We're not so far off these other teams whatsoever. So very interesting to just kind of track all of this and how it's really going right now. Again, we have a couple weeks, just before the season really begins in earnest here, where I think there's still a little bit of runway for this totally to flesh out. Again, just very interesting having Elliot Friedman lend his thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's so tough because you're absolutely right in the sense that it would be cleaner in one way, but at the same time, like Crosby controls his destiny. But then again, like we see the things like Brad Marchand, and it's like, well, what? I understand Marchand versus Crosby is like here and here, but it's not that different. Like Marchand was there for so long, he was the captain, and then just shipped out for a draft pick, like all of a sudden, and it was so shocking, right? And again, would Sid want to do that? I don't know. If Malkin leaves, could he? But when it comes to competing, you're absolutely right with Montreal. It's like, who were the teams that were interested in Evgeny Malkin? Who are the teams that have checked in on him since the end of last season? Well, it's Florida, who has won back-to-back Stanley Cups. Tampa Bay, who has won multiple Stanley Cups in the past, who's always looking to compete. And it's Montreal. At least those are the three confirmed ones. But again, Montreal we clearly feel like we are in that tier of about to get there. And again, there's still a lot to show, but there's so much promise. So we'll get into what Arpen had to say on it as well. But you're absolutely right. It would just bring this whole different vibe to this team, this city, the fans. It's unbelievable. We got to get another super chat in here. Ottawa Things, who was asking about Sidney Crosby earlier. Ottawa Things with $5 saying, great content, boys. Well, thank you, Ottawa Things. If you have something else you want us to answer, feel free to message it. But we really, really appreciate the $5. Really love that. And yeah, I mean, we just love talking about Sid. Why wouldn't we, right? It's one of the most exciting things to talk about. Because you know what? Let's do a poll. I'm gonna put this poll. You interpret it how you want, but do you think it's, and I'm gonna put in quotes, likely? Do you think it's likely that Sidney Crosby goes to Montreal? And you can take that however you want. I'm just kidding. Do you think it's likely that he ends up in Montreal? Does that mean to you 51% versus 49%? Does that mean to you yeah, it's probably happening? Take it how you will, and I'm curious to see what they have to say about it, because I think likely can be interpreted a few different ways. And before we get into what Arpen had to say, Jesse, though, we do have, hello, Ethan. Ethan's in here again. One of our mods. Ethan, been around forever. Great to see you. We got Alex saying, here's an interesting one. If Dach does show he could be a 2C, do we still go to Crosby? And better yet, is it Dach the other way? And again, it's raising these very interesting questions, because at what point does he prove he can be a 2C, right? How much of the season are we comfortable with taking as a sample size before we say that? Is it 2 months? What if he gets hurt in the third month? Now, I know you could say, what if he gets hurt literally whenever. But I think that's an interesting question, Jesse. I think Dach has been at the center of a lot of these talks for Crosby, since we're probably not giving up Reinbacher, especially not someone like Ivan Demidov that's been in some crazy mock trades. But like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, if Dach does seem to prove himself, would you be more hesitant on a Crosby trade or no?
Probably not. I think Kent Hughes, like, really his MO is he likes to get the value up of players that he's trading. Like, we know that Kirby Dach is never going to come anywhere near to what a Sidney Crosby can really do, even though he's much older. But that's also considering, like, if we don't have a Xhekaj coming in the near future, I want to hold on to Kirby Dach a little bit longer. But because we have that 2C there, I think you're getting up the value for Kirby Dach. I think that that's really important as well, because the team has so much depth right now that I think you can't just get away with sending, futures and prospects. Like, we would need to ship away another roster player to really be able to make this happen. I think as we're getting into, there's so many guys just competing for spots right now. So I think that's an ideal thing of just getting the trade value up for Kirby, but that also, in terms of cap wise as well, to send in some money back there. So yeah, and I wanted to work out with Kirby, and I do think that there's a way. It's just, I make this exception maybe for Sidney Crosby, where for maybe other players, I would be more hesitant. I do believe that there's a world where Kirby Dach can defy all expectations, and I think he'll need to still do that for even if he just has this year and he has success, it probably won't still be enough to get that monkey off his back. He'll probably need a couple years of being healthy and having, some good productivity. If he's able to do that though, he can turn the corner. Are the odds against him? Absolutely they are. The best, predictor of future events is what's happened in the past. So the chips are definitely stacked against Kirby Dach, but he can do it. Especially with the culture that we have, with the management, with the doctors, all these things where it would have been a really hard situation. You could say in Montreal, if there's one place where he could turn it around, especially with this crop of talent that we have coming in, Demidov, I made the case for Kirby Dach that maybe Ivan Demidov is just what he's needed the whole time. That's been the antidote. It's just been there waiting in the wing, pun intended, for him to really come here. So I think that could be a huge effect on all this year, where Demidov, he's not only going to elevate Dach, but just, by extension, really the whole team around him, and really just kind of, all the boats on that tide are really just going to rise very, very shortly here. And I think Dach's going to be a great example. Do I think that, he can get better? For sure, but I wouldn't even rule him out of a trade possibility even at that point, because as you know, with this team, we're going to need to start getting really competitive, making some tough, really pragmatic decisions very quickly.
Absolutely. And actually, we got a couple people in chat saying, hey, Marty San Luis said wait till Christmas. And I think that's actually a fair point, because again, it even took till after Christmas for Kirby to really get going, for this team to really get going. And even a little bit after Christmas, it wasn't great. But if Kirby gets back and stays healthy for a long time, I'm going to start calling him Kirby Doctor, because clearly there's going to be something that he did to keep himself healthy. I don't know if I like that, but it came to mind when you said doctor right after talking about him. So I'm just going to roll with it. And I think it's easy. I feel like, Dr.
Anyway, Kirby.
Yeah, there's gotta be something I can do with that. But anyway, we got Ethan saying, does Dach not playing tonight mean he's probably not 100% healthy? I don't necessarily think it means he's not 100% healthy. I think it's also just a bit of a precaution. You don't want to risk it for nothing. There's no need to have him. Plus, it gives Kaiden a very interesting role, but I think we'll get into that in a moment there. Martin saying, ahoy from Slovakia. Ahoy, Martin. I feel like the cost for Crosby is the most important aspect. And yeah, I think that is a big one that maybe we haven't even discussed here today. And look, we've done it a lot in the past, but the cost is going to be substantial. And again, Kent said he's ready to overpay. But does he mean for a guy of Crosby's age? We'll have to be seen, but I do want to dive in quickly before we move on, because we do have a few other things we got to get into before the end of this stream, and the game's starting in 45 minutes. But Arpen, in this article from The Athletic, I'll just show the main part, how realistic is a Sidney Crosby trade for each NHL team? Arpen Basu said this. He said it's a strong possibility. There you go. The Canadiens have reached a point in their rebuild where they almost have too many prospects and not enough potential spots in their lineup in the coming years. That pipeline will provide a major boost for the Penguins' rebuild if Crosby were to ever ask out, and the ascending nature of the Canadiens could satisfy Crosby's desire to win. But my favorite quote from this, Jesse, is just simply, it just fits in so many ways. And I completely agree, and look, we've talked about it now for the past 5-10 minutes about how it is a fit. But objectively, with the mentorship, with the quality of, face-offs, offensive, defensive plays being that kind of 2C, wherever you would be, it's it just makes so much sense to help the team win now, helps for build these guys up for the future. The only thing it would hurt with is depending on the price that we have to give up for him. Would that in the long term, with this big Canadiens core of young guys, 5-6 years down the line, would we regret what we gave up? So I think that's really it. But I agree. I think it just fits in so many ways. And I think it's just it's a nice way to cap it all off and just saying like, look, I think it's something Kent Hughes is like, look, if the Penguins ever say he wants out and their asking price is even close to what we're expecting, I think he is going to absolutely pull the trigger.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple fits that would work, like a young 2C, like a Mason McTavish. That fits for us for in the future, but also having a vet at that 2C. I think like the Habs are in such a good spot right now where it's like you go either way, and both of them really have their merits. You know, again, getting the vet of vets in really Sidney Crosby, it's hard to really bet against that. I've said at the 2C how maybe bringing someone with a little bit more experience, especially as we're looking to get in the playoffs, I would tend to think of like leading into maybe if you want success a little bit earlier on in the playoffs in the next couple of years, I'd lead into getting more of a vet 2C. If I want maybe to have success in the playoffs, but maybe I'm okay with that being maybe in the 3 to 5 year territory more, I'm going for the younger guy at that situation. But I think really ideally, as much as I like a Mason McTavish, like just having a really good vet at that 2C for getting in the playoffs, like there's no price that you can put on that. Like for really winning hockey games, you need a guy in there. Like Suzuki's got experience like Caufield, but like not a whole lot, you know, in our forward group, especially in that top 6 there. So I think bringing in somebody, especially with Laine, who doesn't have tons of playoff experience, would be extremely beneficial for winning those close games down the line. So yeah, just another reason of why like it really is such a phenomenal fit, especially considering just what we have coming. Am I blown away that we're even talking about this with even like one part of it being somewhat like realistic? Like, yes. And it just really speaks to like how blessed we all are as Habs fans right now for all these amazing things, like that we can be entertaining these possibilities. And the fact that Crosby's thinking about us, that it's like, actually, we would be good enough of a hockey team that would merit of him giving some of his last years as a hockey player to win a Stanley Cup. And that actually be like a possibility. Like, I'm just blown away. Like, and to maybe answer the question we had in the poll, like I don't find it's likely Crosby coming here more for like the leadership optics. Like that's been my biggest sticking point is like Crosby's like, honestly, I know he maybe got a bad rep for like talking to reps. Like he's a classy guy, like, and he cares about like other players and like building up captains and leaders on their team and showing them the right way. Like, I think the biggest impediment to all of this is like Crosby actually being like a selfless guy and saying like, no, Nick, like this is your team. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to come here and take that over for you. You're doing something really good. I'm going to let you really kind of see that to fruition without, even, affecting it by proxy of just being involved in any sort of way. I think that honestly, that's the biggest factor probably in all this of what stops Crosby coming to Montreal. It's just what's such a darn good guy that he really is at the end of the day, to be honest. I think that the Montreal Canadiens can do it without him too, but I think getting, a really quality player at that 2C, I think still remains a very interesting point. Do I think Kirby can get there? But just seeing, seeing what we can do with that addition, it's getting me a little bit trigger happy, Josh, to make that happen. Just because I think, sometimes there's been that buildup and it's hard to do the rebuild and really succeed. So when you do it well, and then you get a chance to take yourself over the top, I think you got to grab that with both your mitts.
I like that too. It's like, so many teams I think are hesitant to make the perfect move sometimes. And yeah, there are some teams that get overzealous, but like, when you see that opportunity, if something like that presents itself to you, I think more often than not, you regret not doing it if you're close. Like, I know there's lots of trades that just really don't pan out in the long run. Like, oh, you overpaid for someone who's really good and it just strapped you for years. But like, this feels like a different situation. Again, it's not really a big risk. Like, there's a couple of years of a guy who's still like a point per game player. Like, anyway, that we could get into this for so long, well over point per game, I should say, 91 points. But like, unreal stuff. Yeah. So I'm gonna end the poll there. Like 63%. Okay, will it add again to 100%? Yes, it did. I think you two might have patched this. This is
wow.
This is first though, for those of you who don't know, there's real ones out there who know. But for those of you who don't know, this is the YouTube polls never add to 100%. They always round down, and sometimes it just really doesn't add up at all. But this is the first time in history that 2 polls in the same stream actually added to 100% by the percentage that Google puts on the counter. Completely off topic, not Habs related, but just a shout out because this is genuinely an impressive thing here. Anyway, just
Good look for the season.
Yeah, I mean, like exactly that's good luck, right? It has to be a good luck charm. I mean, we got Martin saying 100%. What's that? 4 total now? I think it is 4. Phoenix. I think 4 all time. One was when I think I did a solo stream and it was like, whoa, it was a shocker. And one time, Jesse, I remember we had it happen. But yeah, anyway, 156. Sorry, getting off topic, but it is important for those of you. So this is not something to be taken lightly. I should actually probably answer the thing is 63% of people said no, it's not likely, but still I find that very intriguing. Mr. Clean, did you change your username? Who is this? Wait a minute. I sorry, I don't remember. Mr. Clean is moderator. Is that Simone? Is that someone? Sorry. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. And Mr. Clean has been here for ages, but 13 months. I love Crosby, but to me, it's still a wet dream. I guess in some ways it is. Appropriate username, I suppose. But Mr. Clean, thank you so much. 13 months. That is a long, long time. And yeah, unreal stuff. And thank you so much for everyone that has been. Yeah, I did. Is that you, Simon? History. I did. I don't know. We'll have to see. But someone did change their name. I think that's who it is, but I'm not totally sure. But I like it. Anyway, beside that point, got a little off topic there. Let's get into the hockey, the actual hockey, for a moment, because I think that's the important part here. And I wanted to just highlight this from Patou Info, Patrick Guille, who has been tweeting a ton of great stuff, as you guys know, about all these videos from the practice facility. They've been doing a great job at Patou Info. They're talking about the second group that will probably face the Philadelphia Flyers tomorrow was practicing as well. And it was Joshua Roy that completed the trio between Alex Newhook and Zachary Bolduc. So I think it's not between, I guess. It's Roy on the right wing, Bolduc on the left, Newhook down the middle, or they could swap wings. I don't really know. It doesn't matter. Newhook is the center. So Roy, he has some pretty good momentum. He lost a lot of weight, Jesse. He's looked pretty good in these intra-squad scrimmages right now. And we got some video of this line going to work. And this, again, just raises some questions. This is not for today versus Pittsburgh. They will probably be the second line going up against the Flyers tomorrow, as the first line of Caufield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky is certainly going to be the first line. But Joshua Roy, this feels a very interesting void here now, because when we opened the lines at training camp and we saw who they were, we noticed that third line wing with Newhook and Bolduc was Owen Beck for a bit, but now we know Beck is playing tonight. This, to me, is that position that is up for grabs, right? Kapanen is doing his own audition, centering between Laine and Demidov tonight, so he could very well take this player's position, whoever it is. Owen Beck is going to be doing his audition. He was there at the start of training camp in this spot, and now we're seeing Joshua Roy fill in this spot for what is likely to be their second preseason game against Philly. How are you feeling about Joshua Roy potentially taking that leap and taking this spot? Because I know it's very competitive, maybe even not Joshua Roy in particular, but to me, this is clearly the battle. It's between him, it's between Beck, it's between Kapanen, and maybe even someone like Veleno, even though Veleno's kind of been, I don't know. There's a lot of very interesting names floating out there, but it's interesting to see them give Roy the nod with these guys for the game tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd put Florian Xhekaj into that competition, along with Owen Beck, along with Oliver Kapanen and Joshua Roy right now. And really, it's a battle right now where Joshua Roy, he's trying to prove, obviously, I'm not trying to say that Joshua Roy is a blue chip prospect, but what he's trying to do, this season here, is he's trying to say, I'm not a blue chip prospect, but I'm close, and I can be close there. I think if he really pans out, he can be quite on that periphery. He's another team. This would be a prospect they're very high on, especially the work that he's done here in the offseason. He's a player. He had a lot of potential. He maybe didn't live up to that all the way, but he had an awakening this offseason of just what he needed to do and get better. And it's not every player that really has that moment where they really realize what they need to do to take their game to the next level. So the fact that he's actually realized that, and then he went into the gym and then putting that to action, that's been a common theme along with Kirby Dach, because the talk is good, but unless you're in the gym pumping the irons, it's not really worth squat. Again, punning. We got too many puns here tonight. It's really coming through. But at the same time, it's you have to feel like Kapanen definitely has the inside line on all that. The proof and point is that, centering Ivan Demidov and really, of course, Patrick Laine here, just shows obviously playing a center, him and Beck, they kind of have a little bit of that advantage there. I would say Florian as well, though. That's a big part. And we can't forget Florian. That's the big battle. The fourth line seems to be really set with Evans, with Gallagher. And obviously with, who's our other boy that we have
Josh
on our fourth line, right? Yeah, exactly. The vet lineup. There's no touching that. We know that's going to be solid there, but it's really who can make the way on that third line? And again, I have to put Florian in there.
Yeah,
Because I think he probably has as strong of a point as all of them here. But like Kapanen, he's like, you feel like he's got a little bit more offensively. Like Florian and Kapanen, I'd put in that same thing, and Joshua Waugh. But then Beck's better defensively. It's going to depend on the lineup and some injuries here of what's going on. But as I'm looking at this, Josh, like I'm looking at 4 guys. Like I think Florian Xhekaj deserves to be NHL after this season. Yes. Oliver Kapanen's an NHLer. Beck, Joshua Waugh, like on other teams, they'd be getting an opportunity, which is all proving like this is why we need to make a trade happen. Mm-hmm. Like, not even just besides the whole 2C situation. I think there's just lots where we really soon, like we can't wait too long and having this value of a lot of these players going down. I think we really need to get ahead of this. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like, can Oliver Kapanen keep up what he's doing right now? Because I love the offense, but the fact that he's been bringing like a little bit of physicality and playing with that intensity for me is like just showed like he's dialed in. He knows the competition that he has. It's not lost on him. He's doing everything that he can to really keep in step with those other prospects right now, which is just showing like how the competition is so fierce when like players are literally doing everything they can right now to bring into their game in order to make this Habs lineup.
Yeah, it's crazy to watch. And, Florian's a guy, I didn't even mention, but you're absolutely right. Like, he's a guy that we absolutely need to start looking at. And even to add to these young guys, what about some not so young guys like Joe Veleno, former exceptional status player? And everyone seemed to be saying, like, well, this guy actually looks really good in training camp. Like, he's a guy that could take a spot, right? And even another guy like Sammy Blais, while I don't think he will make the team, he's an NHL veteran, and he's a really good AHL player. I think he'll bring more value to the Rocket than anything. But even these guys, like, you don't think they want to make the NHL roster, right? Like these guys all want to do it. And so it's so interesting to look at all the competition, and it's wild. So I'm really excited to see Joshua Waugh tomorrow. And actually, Patrick Pichette in the chat as well, Jesse, said, I really hope Florian Xhekaj develops further. He could become an ideal third liner, gritty physical offensive upside, the kind of guy who can wear out another team's top line. The line you suggested would be fire if the defensive awareness is there. Newhook's lacking so far, but I think Bolduc has it. Hopefully Newhook develops it and Xhekaj improves in that area. And again, like, absolutely a great point there as well. Like, Florian has so much of an interesting potential because, like, we've been calling it anti-gravity, right? That thing where you don't want to get near a certain player, and having Florian have that little aspect as a forward who can also pot some goals is like, it's very valuable, right? As long as you can keep up with the skating, which would be my main concern with Florian at the NHL level. Not that his skating is bad, it's just he is not the fastest guy on the ice. Again, you don't need to be, especially him who can find ways to influence the game in other ways. There just is that thing with a lot of players, unfortunate as it is, if you can't keep up with the NHL speed, sometimes that can really hinder you. I'm not saying it's a problem for him. I'm saying that's something I'd want to keep an eye on. But regardless, there's so many interesting things going on here with this lineup. And, we might as well get into the game here now. And again, if you're watching this after the game happened, comment on what happened. But I'm very interested to just go through this quickly with everyone here before the game. And look, Pittsburgh's sitting at all their big guns. Top line, Danton Heinen and Tommy Novak and Anthony Mantha. You got Fabry there. You do have RHP there on the third line, which is really cool. I like that he's in there in that lineup. Shea and Matt Dumba. I have an autographed Matt Dumba Minnesota Wild jersey in my closet there. I am somewhat not embarrassed. I don't want to talk about that, actually. Why did I even bring that up? But the Habs lineup is the most important thing. And I don't have the defenders here, but you're right. Adam Engstrom is playing tonight. And you do have a top pairing of Matheson and Dobson, and it looks like it's going to be Monty and Fowler. They might split the game, who knows, but it's those two. But the important thing, again, is the forwards. And, when we talk about this Joshua Waugh thing, Waugh is a winger, right? He just straight up is. Kapanen and Beck are centers. Kapanen could play some wing, I think, at the NHL level. He's already shown he can. And Owen Beck, yet to be seen. I think, well, he kind of did as well in a little bit of a sample size this past season. But I do find it interesting that it's like, you put Beck, you give him that chance to play center with Mesar and Farrell. So to me, I don't know if I'm thinking too much into this, but like, I think that is maybe more like, all right, Owen, can you play, I don't know why I said it like that, Mr. Beck, let's be nice. Mr. Beck, can you win faceoffs? Can you play good defense down the middle against some NHL level competition here in preseason? Because I think playing Owen Beck at the wing is maybe not what the Habs are necessarily looking at longer term. You want to see how he does as a center, right? Same thing with Oliver Kapanen, whereas Joshua Waugh, you can't just stick him at center. So maybe Owen Beck is still ahead of Waugh in the depth chart. They just want to play Waugh on a line where like they don't want to force Newhook away from the center position, and that's why Beck is like, I'm gonna be honest, this could be Laval's top line: Mesar, Beck, and Farrell. And also glad to see Mesar getting that nod there rather than someone like a Jared Davidson who had a 20-goal year last year. Anyway, I find that very interesting. Mesar had a pretty good prospect showdown, so I'm excited to see that. But what do you think about that? Like, again, having Owen Beck there as the center and versus Joshua Watt, would you still have? Hold on. Let me gather my thoughts. Do you think that Owen Beck is still ahead of Joshua Watt on the Habs depth chart? I still would venture to say yes, but I don't know. I think these lines are very interesting, and I think they're subject to change, but I think there's a lot we can learn, even just tonight, about Owen Beck's game, and even a lot of these other underrated guys' games, like Mesar and even a guy like Davidson.
I think Owen Beck and Joshua right now and Joshua Watt are in a dead even tie right now. Like Owen Beck definitely last year had the leg up on him. But with the work that Joshua Watt has now done, that's been the one part of his game, because he's a guy like Kirby Dach where he can be like very, like he can be a threat offensively. He can look dangerous out on the ice. It's just about making it translate, 200 feet. And if he can really do that, I think he's a really important guy. Like, obviously, Kaiden being higher up in the lineup, I think that's showing, like, him playing with the NHL guys, like, clearly that they have Oliver Kaiden ahead of Owen Beck. And, Josh, you had Kaiden ahead of Owen Beck here, and we're starting to see that now actually starting to happen and him starting to separate himself. So I think that's a clear indicator. But then I think Florian Xhekaj got the inside job on Joshua Watt and then Owen Beck there. But, like, Joshua Watt and Owen Beck are really in a lock there, and it's going to be like, and they're going to kind of be fighting to see, like, I could see if Joshua Watt doesn't make the team, obviously he's going to be on the first line with the Laval Rocket. Yeah. I really, like, I don't want to say this, Josh, but one of my bold predictions that we like to share internally here, one of my takes is that Joshua Watt is going to be traded this very season. Like, think a team like the Seattle Kraken, like, I think we can all kind of like just envision that. Unfortunately, as much as we don't like it, like, I really like this player, and it's not that he's not good. It's just we have so many players right now, like with Florian completely coming out of the woodwork and looking like he can get an NHL job. Like, it's only so long where you can keep a guy like Joshua Watt in limbo, where by right he should be getting looks on the fourth or third line at the NHL at this point. That being said, I think there's a huge risk at shading like a Joshua Watt a little bit too early. But that being said, like, if you're feeling strong, like, obviously he's not coming in the top six, you're feeling pretty good about your third line, like, where is he going? Like, but I think that he is somebody that could benefit a team along the NHL, and especially that he's just shown so much of late recently, like, for me, put Joshua Watt in my good books. That being said, like, we love Owen Beck here on the channel. Yeah. Like, and again, the prospects, like, it's hard to find, like, we don't have too many just completely, like, lame duck prospects here. Like, there's, like, Owen Beck thinks the game really well. Like, I could tell just from years back, like, this guy is a pro. Like, he's going to be an NHLer. He's going to secure that. He's going to be well paid. Like, he's going to be a full-time NHLer for sure. And there's a lot of value in winning a lot of draws, playing good defensively. His offense is just going to keep getting better as the year goes on. He's going to be a coach's dream. He's just going to have peace of mind when you're putting him on the ice. Like, you're not going to need to worry about him whatsoever. He also happens to have a good impact on his teammates by just doing a lot of the details of the game so well. Really important guy, I think, to have on a young team when you're really looking not only to establish really those baselines, but really continue them over time. So, I mean, this is just a full-on, like, dogfight right now. Like, there's so much to like about these different prospects, but we're right not to give up or to be too hasty about anything right now, because Joshua Watt could really show out. Like, he was scoring goals in the AHL this year. He's going to do that. He could really benefit whichever organization he does come into in the future. It's just like, what's the fit? It's so funny, Josh, because it seems like the team's incomplete, and then you get to like a full roster so quick. Yeah. It's like, what do we do with these guys? Like, we really need to put them to work in some type of way, and it's going to be up to Kent Hughes to really figure that out in quite short order.
I agree, but you know what's funny? We got a lot of people in the chat here like, Watt could be a good third line option. Give Watt a shot on the third line with Newhook and Bolduc. I want to see Watt play on the third line, and like, that's the thing. He could be a good fit, right? Like, we've seen him at the NHL level be in the right place at the right time a lot of the time. The question has been, like, can he sustain the effort? And there's been some other things there, but like, we objectively know this guy who scored 50 goals in the queue, like, his ceiling is, I think, is higher than Beck's, but I think Beck's floor is much higher. I think Watt's floor is, again, where he is now, like a fringe NHL player, and it's possible that he never really gets past that. Whereas Owen Beck, I think, is a guy whose floor is at least like an NHL guy for multiple seasons. At least that's what it's looking like at this point. So just because Beck's game is more translatable, I think, to different teams, different lines, different organizations. You're never not going to want someone with his skill set, whereas a guy like Joshua Waugh might need more specific set of circumstances to be a positive fit on a line. Not to say that he'd be a negative fit, but you know what I mean, right? Like, I think Owen Beck makes more sense with more line combinations with more teams. So it's yet to be seen, but it's very interesting. I want to say hi to Frankie Daig, who's popping into the chat. Hello, been a while. Yes, it has, Frankie. Good to see you. Mark Horsing, hello, all you awesome Habs fans. Keep the faith. Go Habs, go. David Darcy, hello again from Ireland, from Ireland. How are you doing, David? Mark also saying, Waugh has no sandpaper. He plays the perimeter, and I do not see him being a long-term NHL player. And that is, unfortunately, kind of what it is. Like, look, he's got all the skill in the world, but unless you're playing top 6 minutes with like another really good skilled player and you have the skill to be up to there, it's hard to make that really count unless you can drive the play from the bottom 6. Again, some teams might need that, but more teams would be like, wow, Owen Beck's skill set makes more sense for us. But anyway, well, Joshua Waugh is a very interesting thing. Papanik is greater than Beck, says Manu. Very interesting. I hope Papanicus, I don't know if he's healed from his injury yet. I was hoping to see him in that prospect showdown, but regardless. Final thing though, Jesse, just a final note before we head off here, because this has been a bit of a longer stream, I think, than we expected. The big news tonight that we've talked about it, but maybe not like a full part here. Ivan Demidov and Patrick Laine on the first line, and it's preseason, right? We get to see Ivan Demidov go out there and play against NHL talent and see what he can do. We saw it in the playoffs, but I'm excited for it this preseason. We saw what he did in the prospect showdown. And Patrick Laine, I know the preseason last year was really scary. The one thing I'm just like, please don't get hurt. There has been so many injuries and like high hits and knee on knees so far this preseason, and we saw it last year too. Look, I'm not necessarily worried. Like, I'm not going to be here, oh my God, are they going to get hurt? No, but like, you know, I'm just excited to see what they can bring. Hope it's a clean game. I mean, you know, Pittsburgh's lineup doesn't look too bad. I'm excited to see what they can bring. I mean, Demidov and Laine, I think they could both go out there and light some things up. But at the very least, Jesse, tonight is going to give us some incredible insight into the future of this organization, really, not just this season. Like, because if you look, Patrick Laine's ticket to a big contract from Montreal is, do you have good chemistry with Ivan Demidov? And if so, you never really know what could come of this.
No, for sure, that's it. And again, as we're leading into this preseason game, it's so important. Health and starting on time. Like, send that good love to Patrick Laine just for the team. Like, you know, they can feel it, right? When you're encouraging. Yeah. That's what really makes the Montreal Canadiens, the Canadiens is the fans and that support that they get, really for sure. But I think another important point for tonight, Josh, is really the mindset needs to be fearless. Yeah. We know what happened last year, but we're not going to let that stop us or the way that we play the game. We're not going to be kind of on our heels. Yes, that happened, but I beg, you know, everyone to consider those were freak accidents that really happened last year. I don't see that reproducing itself. I think that this team has really just grown in so many ways, and for sure, there's things that you can do to help those situations and to prevent that from happening. But we just got like a really tight unit where, you know, people are going to be playing together. They're going to be supporting each other. I think this team, because of what they've gone through, they know what they need to do to be successful. So they're really going to be hedging their bets in that way. But it's really by having that fearless mentality. Even hockey's a physical game. Stuff's going to happen. Just can't let it stop you from having this time. Patrick Laine, when he has that, you know, the puck on his stick, I want him going through the blue line. I want him holding it. I don't want him just, you know, kind of dumping the puck in. I want him playing fearlessly here today. I think that's important just to turn the page. Like, that's what happened last year. That's not going to be the case this year. It's just really important. We just focus on our game. We focus on what we want, you know, and really play the game hard. And, you know, good things are just going to come as a result of that.
100%. Look, we saw how aggressive people were in these even intra-squad scrimmages. Like, they were going at each other. These guys, like, they know there's pressure to perform no matter what level of the organization you're at. You're on the first line. We got so much talent that, like, you never know. No, I think the first line's pretty safe, but you know what I mean? Like, there's so many guys that are like, we really got to prove something. The young guys, even the guys that are currently there, like, they want to go out there and win. They want to win for each other, and that's what I absolutely love. So I'm so excited for this game. I know you guys are too. Hey, we'd love to get to 150 likes. We had over 300 people in here. We need 31 or 21 likes. If you want the Montreal Canadiens to win this game, you just hit the like button. The stats have shown, all the stats, you can't see them. I'm not going to show them to you, but trust me, they say that if you like our streams, the Montreal Canadiens win games and do good things. So if that's not incentive, I don't know what is. Mark saying, I hope RHP does not have a great game tonight for the Pens. You know, I hope RHP has a decent game but doesn't get a point. You know, I hope he looks great but doesn't get a point. That's what I'm kind of hoping. I also saw someone say, where are your jerseys? Here, look, new place, new setup. We're gonna fix this. They're behind me. I could. I don't know if this is gonna work. You know, you know, we're gonna do this. Just, I got stuff here. It's just a matter of actually, you know, figuring out how we're gonna make this look better. But thank you for that. But yeah, I'm excited. Look, it's gonna happen in the next 20 minutes. Jesse, any final words before we send the fans off to go enjoy our first Habs hockey game of the season?
It's right here. Obviously, all this time that we've been waiting for. Thank you guys for all the support of the off season. Obviously, we're just wrapping things up here for the season. So obviously, amazing to have you guys along for the ride. We truly appreciate all the support and just the community, the good vibes, and really what we're all about. So thank you guys for really bringing that week after week here. And, you know, can't wait to get into the season. It's truly going to be a memorable one, and having each of you along here for the ride just makes it that much better.
Absolutely true. I mean, yeah, every single person who stopped by today, like, you're a big reason that we get to do this, big reason that we're so excited for this season. And hey, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like or even subscribe to the channel. Like Jesse said earlier, we got stuff coming every single day. If you want to stay up to date literally every day on the Habs, this is the spot to be. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. Enjoy the game. We'll catch you on the next one.